Looking for an easy getaway from Nashville? Head just a few hours south to Birmingham, Alabama, where Southern hospitality meets a vibrant food scene, outdoor adventure, and plenty to explore. Nicknamed the Magic City, Birmingham has transformed into one of the South's most exciting destinations. Food lovers can dig into their nationally recognized dining scene, where 11 local restaurants earned Michelin honors this year, including the prestigious Outstanding Service Award. If you'd rather be outside, you'll find miles of nature to hike, bike, climb, camp, or simply unwind. Not to mention the 140,000 yards of some of the best public golf on earth. Traveling with family? Catch a Birmingham Barons baseball game. Spend the day at the McWane Science Center. Visit the Birmingham Zoo. Or check out the world's largest vintage motorsports museum. With live music, festivals, incredible restaurants, and something new happening year-round, Birmingham makes for the perfect weekend escape. Start planning your next getaway to Birmingham today at inbirmingham.com. Today on CityCast Nashville, we're talking with Stephanie Roach, Director of Collective Action at Urban Green Lab, a local nonprofit helping communities live more sustainably. She's here to share Voices of Resilience, a collection of oral histories that explores how climate change is reshaping the lives of everyday Nashvillians. It's Monday, July 20th. I'm Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Hi, friends. Real quick before we get into this amazing episode with Stephanie, I have a favor to ask. It's that time of year that we ask our listeners to take CityCast's annual listener survey. That's right, folks. It's a new year, new data that we need to collect so we can better understand you and what you want from CityCast Nashville. If you took it last year, we're going to ask you to take it again this year. Go to citycast.fm/survey to take the survey. It only takes 7 minutes. We timed it. Again, that is citycast.fm/survey. When you take the survey, you're going to be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and CityCast Nashville swag. So again, fill out that survey today at citycast.fm/survey. Now, on with the show. Stephanie, when you look around your neighborhood, what's the biggest sign of climate change you can see?
Well, Marie, there is a lot to take in when we're looking around Nashville in general. The big things that I see if I'm walking around in North Nashville, where Urban Green Lab is based, is the effects of urban heat island effect. I see a lot of urban canopy loss. So we have way more built up and concreted spaces than we do treed and shade spaces. And then in some cases, I'm observing storm damage that hasn't been managed, and that's either because of expense or capacity. So that can be anything from the wind shears and tornadic activity that we've experienced. That can be the ravages of, in some cases, even flood. I mean, we just had a doozy of an ice storm, and I think everybody in Nashville can still see the scars of that. And that just suggests a bigger move towards resilient practices that we do at both the government level, but even in our neighborhood and household level too.
Well, let's get into what you all do at Urban Green Lab. You have created an oral history archive in partnership with Tennessee State University that features, as you put it, the voices of some Nashville community members experiencing climate change first, worst, and longest. So was there one story that inspired this whole project?
You know, I'd love to be able to say that there was like one amazing kickoff story, but truly all of the stories that we've really stumbled into have just been these magical adventures. I mean, they really are intriguing perspectives from those who are on the front lines. And so what I like to think of these as, you know, they are a snapshot in time of what's happening right now in Nashville. When we started this out, our facilitator, who is the incredible local journalist, Tasha Lemley, she connected us to the unhoused population first. And, you know, when we were thinking about that, we were really thinking about this archive through the lens of people who are literally out in the elements. They are the bellwethers for what is going to happen to the rest of us. But as we got deeper and deeper into it, we had such incredible stories, not only telling the tales of these more frequent and severe, run-ins with storms or extreme heat, extreme cold, but we really found stories of resilience and the empowerment that comes out of the communities themselves. These folks have the solutions. Their stories just need to be amplified. There needs to be visibility on that to build greater connectivity and just awareness, really, around what's going on to us here in Nashville.
Why was it important to you to capture it through oral history and through the photographs?
We live in climate science world, which is with our partners at TSU who are in the environmental sciences. We do a lot of academic talk. It's really high level stuff. And, that just doesn't translate like you hope it would to your everyday citizen. So we thought about the ways that people communicate. And once these oral histories began to be recorded, we just looked at each other and realized we're sitting on a gold mine. Like, we have to get this out there. It would be rude not to share, honestly. So when we figured out that the oral history, which, it's very academic, and this is definitely something that lives on the TSU website as a purely academic oral history, but we realized in order to really communicate it to everybody else, we had to get it out there in a format that made sense, where they could see themselves in the stories. But then when we decided to make the touring exhibit and really get it out there to Nashvillians, we made sure that we had companion pieces of art, because we know visual art communicates way more than even words ever could. So we're able to reach a really diverse and wider set of Nashville's population.
What I've learned from looking at this is you talk a lot about social vulnerability. Can you tell us what that means and how that pertains to this project?
Sure. Well, we understand social vulnerability really in the resiliency sense. That's really measuring a community's or individual's capacity to anticipate, cope, and resist, to basically be able to bounce, what is your ability to bounce back and recover from external stressors? So that's the science-y version. Every community experiences some level of vulnerability before climate change. That we know to be true, and it's a growing issue. Every part of the community has this vulnerability, whether they like it or not. But if you add that on to those marginalized and historically excluded communities, then that problem exponentially blows up. But again, it's really exciting to see that those communities, the most vulnerable communities, actually have a lot of the solutions and the structure they're building from the grassroots up to address this. So you have the people who are being affected by the problem and the issue the most are also the problem solvers, which also means that they should be at the table when bigger policy decisions are being contested and argued over and voted upon. And the policy and decision makers, and I say decision makers because policy is the realm of the government, but decision makers are those of us in the community. There are businesses, there are corporations, there are nonprofits. All of those folks have a stake in this as well. And so being able to bring all those people to the table and also educate them as to this particular problem through stories, which we know is the most digestible way to get the policy across, or just like the need across. That was definitely forefront of mind when we were thinking about social vulnerability. And it's there, but also the answer is there too.
Quick question, Nashville. Has your sink been draining a little slower than usual? Or maybe you've heard some gurgling when the washing machine runs. Well, those little warning signs are often your main drain asking for help. And trust me, I am speaking from experience. It's a whole lot easier and a heck of a lot cheaper to deal with the problem now than to wait until you've got water backing up into your kitchen or your bathroom. That's where Hoffman Brothers comes in. Right now, they're offering a main drain opening special for just $95. It's a flat rate, so there are no surprises. And their licensed Nashville plumbers will get your drain flowing again before a small issue turns into a major headache. So don't wait until you're ankle deep in water, like I did. Book your $95 drain service today at HoffmanBros.com. Hoffman Brothers has Nashville covered. I'm glad you brought up, stories and how accessible they are and how a wide spectrum of people are affected by this. And right now, we just saw at council with hundreds of people showing up to voice their opinions about the data center being built by the zoo or the Fisk University data center. How does this fight over these data centers here in Nashville play into this conversation?
I think the data centers at both the zoo and Fisk really just uncover this other layer of environmental injustice. And, that is something that this oral history, this particular project, this exhibit, it's all a slice of the bigger solution pie. Data centers are incurring huge burdens on any community's energy and water resources. And so the question that it really begs for me is, why are these particular issues consistently put into specific neighborhoods? Why are we relegating that to our most vulnerable communities? The obvious reasons are money, 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 right? It's the cheapest, it's the easiest. But what I really like, and you just mentioned it, is that the community is now emboldened to speak up. And so our Voices of Resilience exhibit is a way for people to speak up in the same way that gathering at council meetings and zoning meetings and things like that, it's just another tool in the toolbox of fighting these particular injustices. And unfortunately, Nashville enjoys a sad history, a sad track record of environmental racism. You've got, everything from the I-40 and I-64 corridors being built through Edge Hill and North Nashville, historically really strong economic centers of communities of color. You've got the Bordeaux landfill issues. So we have a history there that needed to be addressed. And I'll be honest with you, when we were going through picking our stories, we had to be very careful because we know that there is an inherent distrust in the communities that we're looking at. Also too, with the shutting down of the unhoused camps, that again is another tricky blow, I will say, to a population that's suffered a lot. And so how the city is trying to deal with it, they're, in many ways doing the best they can, but there's of course always ways to do better. We've got to keep at the front of mind whenever we do any of this work is, how do we bridge that distrust? So we don't just go into a community and take your stories, because there has been a lot of that. There's been a lot of imposition of policy of we know what's best, how to solve this, how to fix things. And then there's also been a lot of, let me take your story, let me take something from you and extract it and be gone. And so what our project really strives for is to first develop trust through a trusted entity within the community, right? These bridge facilitators who are organizations like Recycle, Reinvest, Greater Than Equal, the Metro Historic Commission, even Tasha herself, who worked with the contributor and had inroads to Open Table. So we've really had a lot of luck in identifying those bridge facilitators who then put us in connection with the best storytellers to talk about what's really important within the communities that we're seeing.
Let's dive into those neighbors you interviewed who've been most impacted. Native Nashvilleian Alois left for the East Coast and then returned home to what you call a more fractured North Nashville. We've seen a lot of effort poured into restoration of that community. Are we moving in the right direction?
I hope so. I hope so. We're seeing starts and fits. And I do think that there are a lot of great organizations, again, at the grassroots level who are working towards this. Again, cannot say enough about Recycle Reinvest. They're doing an amazing job of bringing the community together. And then, of course, there's a lot of the faith-based organizations that are working together and working within their own congregations to build up that community resiliency. Alois is so wonderful. I always think of her as being the most resilient person. It's interesting, and even in our lineup, she is what we end on. And it's because her story really talks about the long-standing tradition of resiliency it's part of the DNA of North Nashville. They always come together in this way, and they do it through their schools, through their churches, through their small businesses. That's really what she's encouraging. And that to me is the best note to end on, because it's about empowerment. It's about these things are going to happen, but who can we turn to? How can we, raise each other up? And just knowing that those structures are there already. So yeah, that you are right to say, like, we think of North Nashville as having a renaissance, and it still has its share of problems. But I think a lot of attention and resources are returning to North Nashville. And I do feel like that is setting them on the right path.
What are our peer cities doing to mitigate the impacts of climate change in their communities? And is there anything we can learn from them?
Yes. The one thing I will say is, when we look at the standard bearers of climate change and resiliency patterns, like who is the best model, a lot of times you'll find them on the coast. And that's because those folks are dealing with sea level rise. They're also dealing with, because they're near water, way more frequent storms, way more severe storms, and they kind of get the supersized version first. And I think that when we start looking at peer cities for Nashville is starting to become a vanguard. We are becoming a model. Other cities to look at, though, are places like Asheville and Charlotte, North Carolina. If we're looking in the Southeast, those folks have always had that feature of resiliency and sustainability as part of their government and just kind of the culture that they work in. But it's how their approach has been since Hurricane Helene. How they're dealing with that, how they're rethinking and how they're rebuilding has been really clever. And it's really starting to account for climate change in a way that we should probably take some cues from. Other cities of note are, of course, Austin, which builds in resiliency more at the community level. And even in places like Atlanta is really interesting because they have a lot of financial support and programming that helps post-storm, post-event. And I think that that's something that we need to be looking at, is how do we invest carefully so that we can meet those needs. For instance, during the ice storm Fern, it became glaringly apparent that we need a lot of emergency shelters. And so instead of investing a lot of money into the infrastructure of building up these really fanciful things, let's take a page from New Orleans, who repurposed a lot of their churches and schools and parishes and even hospitals to act as shelters. And so we are going to need to think about that. And again, already start to extend and make inroads of partnership and collaboration with those groups, with the emergency services, make sure that we're looking to the faith-based organizations that have these structures ready to go. Where do you go to get food? So we already have kind of models set up, right? Especially in the unhoused population, in marginalized communities that would need like more of a food bank model, right? So we can use those and extrapolate and figure out networks that we need to build, and we need to build them now.
In your project, you include 3 calls to action for policymakers, communities, and individuals. Will you tell us about those?
Yeah, I mean, first for, the communities and individuals, a lot of this is truly for all 3 parties. The biggest call to action for me is awareness. Get involved now. And again, as we've seen this project evolve, the call to action has always been to look around, but now it's time to act. What is your role? I think every Nashvilleian needs to look at their role as the climate shifts, because the impacts, as we talked about before, they're inescapable. There's no way around this. So let's make sure that we're making those charges together. And a lot of that is by knowing your neighbors, building that network, as we said, at the policy level, really looking at our emergency services and be open to refining those plans, open to expanding upon the plans that we have, because they are there, but we've never had to use them in the past. So each storm, each disaster event is an opportunity to grow and to change course for something that fits our culture and our needs here in Nashville.
Folks, you can listen to the Voices of Resilience Project online at urbangreenlab.org, but you can also visit their touring exhibit at Vanderbilt University's Curb Center through August 4th. Stephanie, tell us about that.
Oh my goodness, what a gallery and resource to have for creative expression here in town. We launched in early June there, and all of the voices are up. We encourage everyone to go see those voices, read the panels, learn about the climate themes that go with each voice, but then just get lost in the art. A lot of the beautiful storytelling could only be done by Dr. Megan Jordan, who is our lead creative in creating those companion art pieces. And we're just so thrilled to be able to have her vision of our themes represented. She really did an incredible job. And to me, there's no level at which you can't access this information through this exhibit. So again, truly open to all. Our next stop will be at West End United Methodist Church's Theater Galleries, Monday, August 10th through the end of September. And we're looking for new voices. So please, by all means, if you are interested in joining and becoming a part of those feature voices, we encourage you to come on and call. Please let me know.
Excellent. And the exhibit's free?
The exhibit is free and it will always be free. We like that public access.
That we do. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much. I just jotted it down because I'm going to put it in my calendar. I will not miss this.
Yes.
As an audio storyteller, I can't wait to check it out. So I hope our city learns from it and makes policies because of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. Early voting is open now through August 1st for the August 6th state and federal primary election and municipal general. Go vote. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city.